Spider-Man Brand New Day, the fourth installment of Tom Holland as Spider-Man, has released and opened with a record-breaking $72 million in US previews.
I'm MJ.
I'm just a neighbor from across the hall.
Friendly neighbor.
But is the movie chasing another Marvel event or carving a different path in the superhero genre? The non-spoiler answer is, it's different from a lot of superhero movies we have seen since Avengers Endgame. It is grounded, emotional, and most importantly, very human for a superhero movie. The real question is whether that grounded approach makes Peter's story more powerful or leaves the movie feeling too small after No Way Home. The rest of the video may contain spoilers, so let's jump right in.
You're the only one who can defeat it.
Brand New Day doesn't rush to recreate the multiverse spectacle of No Way Home. Instead, the film brings Peter Parker back to his most personal problem: the world has forgotten him. That makes Brand New Day a slower, heavier, more character-focused Spider-Man film, and frankly, I loved that part of the movie. After the ending of No Way Home, Peter Parker is completely alone. He saves the world but gives up his entire personal life in the process. Everyone he loves is still alive, but the relationships are gone. MJ has no memory of their love. Ned has no memory of their friendship. Peter is the only person who remembers what they had. That's a painful place to begin a Spider-Man movie, and in the first 10 minutes, you can see that pain in Peter's life.
We used to know each other. Something bad was going to happen, and the only way to stop it was to make everyone forget about me.
Now, the writers could have taken the easy way out, a new spell, opened another portal, and do a reset that brings everyone back together. But Brand New Day doesn't erase that ending. It treats Peter's sacrifice as something real, something substantial. Peter still puts on the suit, he still protects people as the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. He just does it without anyone waiting for him afterward. That gives the movie a very different mood from the previous films. It's neither the energetic teenage adventure of Homecoming, nor the giant multiverse event of No Way Home. This is a story about what happens after the celebration ends. Peter has already saved the world. Now he has to figure out how to live with himself. That's where Destin Daniel Cretton's direction becomes interesting. Cretton moves Peter away from constant reality-breaking spectacle and toward his daily life. The movie still exists inside the larger Marvel universe, but it doesn't feel controlled by it. The wider franchise is present, but Peter Parker remains the focal point. You can see that instinct in how Cretton frames the quieter scenes. There are stretches where the camera just sits with Peter, riding the subway, walking past a coffee shop MJ used to work at, watching people who no longer recognize him. Cretton doesn't rush through those moments to get to the next piece. He lets them breathe, and that patience is exactly what makes the loneliness land instead of just being stated. One of the reasons I loved Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man was how humane and humble that portrayal was.
This is my gift, my curse. Who am I? I'm Spider-Man.
There's a specific nostalgia for 90s kids who grew up on those movies, and Tom Holland's version, especially here, gave me a similar feeling. And this is why any superhero movie, Batman, Superman, or Spider-Man, works best when the superhero story and the personal story are connected. Peter can fight a powerful villain, but the fight should still affect his relationships, his sense of responsibility, or how he sees himself. The strongest parts of Brand New Day understand that. Peter isn't fighting because the story needs another action scene. He's fighting because helping people is the only thing that still makes sense to him. He's lost his closest friends, there's no Aunt May to come home to, and no Tony Stark to guide him, but he hasn't lost his responsibility, and that's what keeps him moving. Tom Holland gives his most vulnerable performance as Peter Parker. Watching The Odyssey, I felt that was his most coming-of-age performance, but Brand New Day shows he can take a familiar character and play it as a different person entirely. We have seen him play Peter as nervous, funny, confident, and overwhelmed. Here he feels emotionally worn down in a way we haven't seen him before. He still makes the jokes, he still reacts awkwardly, he still tries to act normal when things get uncomfortable, but the humor doesn't hide the pain as easily anymore.
Give me a sec. I'm not in high school anymore. Oh. Did you stretch? You a big stretcher?
There are moments when Peter is surrounded by people yet feels completely separate from them. He hears conversations about MJ and Ned, watches their social media, but can't take part in the history behind it. He knows things about them that they don't know about him. For MJ and Ned, Peter is a stranger. For Peter, they are still two of the most important people in his life. That imbalance is difficult to watch. Even if he tells them everything, they may not believe him. And even if they do, that doesn't mean they can instantly feel what he feels. And this is something clearly shown shown in the film. The movie understands that Peter doesn't want MJ to remember him just to make his life easier. He wants proof that what they shared was real. There are moments where you will wish it plays out in a certain way, but it doesn't. And that's why Brand New Day is a mature idea for a superhero movie.
Yo, Spider-Man. You okay? Did you get rid of that monster inside you?
Think I might go see how MJ's doing.
Peter's love for MJ becomes less about getting what he wants and more about deciding whether he has the right to interrupt her life. The film doesn't always handle this material perfectly, but the emotional question is strong. It gives Peter a problem that can't be solved with a punch. The action follows the same grounded approach. The film doesn't remove the large CGI battles entirely, but the best fights are smaller and more physical. Peter moves through streets, buildings, alleys, and crowded spaces, reacting to his surroundings instead of just fighting inside a digital set. You can feel him thinking during the fights, protecting people, controlling the situation, trying not to make things worse. Some of the fights, especially the one with the Hulk, are entertaining but at times visually jarring, weighed down by heavy CGI. The climax fight sequence with the red-clad ninjas, by contrast, is where the street-level approach really pays off. Tight, physical, and legible in a way the bigger set pieces aren't. That's also true of how the movie handles its central threat. Without spoiling who it is, the antagonist works best when they are forcing Peter into small personal decisions rather than city-ending stakes. The film is smart enough to keep the danger scaled to Peter's world instead of the whole universe, and the action benefits from that restraint even when the CGI around it doesn't always match the intimacy of the story. Spider-Man has always worked best in street-level action because his powers are personal. He swings through real neighborhoods, climbs real buildings, hears people calling for help. The street fights here bring back some of that feeling. Peter isn't only a superhero in the sky, he's the person who shows up when someone nearby is in trouble. He isn't fighting to save an abstract universe, he's fighting to protect someone standing a few feet away, and that difference actually matters. The cast benefits from this more personal approach. Zendaya and Jacob Batalon remain important emotional anchors even though their relationships with Peter have changed completely. MJ and Ned aren't just there to remind Peter of what he lost. Their presence forces him into a real choice: try to return to their lives or let them move forward without him.
The Spidey Tracker app says that Spider-Man is in the direct vicinity.
Oh yeah? No way, that's crazy.
He knows reconnecting could make him happy. He also knows it could put them in danger. More than that, he understands they may not want the life he remembers because from their point of view, that life never happened. That's a painful situation, and Holland, Zendaya, and Batalon give it enough emotional detail to work. There's a real tension in their scenes. Peter wants to be close to them but can't act like nothing's changed, and MJ and Ned can sense he knows them without knowing why. Sadie Sink also fits well into this version of the story. Her character brings a different energy into Peter's life, someone with her own problems who fits the darker tone without becoming another source of gloom. Sadie's character, Jean, is a telepath who body hops from person to person. For Stranger Things fans, this feels like a full circle moment for the actress. In season 4, her character Max was put under Vecna's mind control because of her deep grief and trauma. Here, she's the one taking over other people's minds. Watch the movie and you will see why that connection matters. The bond between her and Peter works because both characters understand what it means to feel separated from everyone around them. They don't share the same story, but they recognize something familiar in each other, which gives their scenes a natural quality.
It was perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
The movie also understands the comic book tradition it's drawing from. Fans and critics have already started comparing this version of Peter to Steve Ditko's original run, and that comparison makes sense because Ditko's Peter Parker was never only about superpowers. He was about pressure, about being misunderstood, isolated, and forced to keep going even when nobody thanked him. The classic Peter Parker stories often placed him in situations where winning the fight still meant losing something personal. Brand New Day understands that part of Spider-Man. It wants Peter to feel like a person again, a young man who has lost almost everything familiar and still chooses to help people. And that's a strong foundation for a Spider-Man movie. It also helps that the score understands the assignment. Instead of leaning on the usual Marvel swell, the music pulls back in the quieter scenes, letting silence and small character beats carry the emotional weight instead of telling you how to feel. It's a small choice, but it fits the whole approach of the movie.
Never forget that no matter how powerful you become,
The chemistry between Tom Holland and Zendaya is the bedrock of Peter's emotional journey, and there are two scenes, not to spoil anything, that are genuinely excellent. You will expect their story to move a certain way, it doesn't, and that part I actually liked. John Bernthal as Frank the Punisher is amazing. A small role, but he makes the most of it. That gritty, loudmouth attitude and his scenes with Spider-Man are actually the funniest moments in the movie. Whatever it is between Tom and John, their scenes in the Odyssey clicked, and it clicks again here.
What do you think's downrange to that tank, dum-dum? Suit yourself.
Now, while I have touched on the good aspects, Brand New Day isn't perfect. The same slower pace that gives the emotional material room to breathe also makes the story feel heavy in places. The movie sits with Peter's loneliness but sometimes repeats the same beat without pushing forward, and the balance between sadness and sorrow gets off at times, especially in the second half, where the serious moments drag more than they should. The film has several strong ideas that don't always connect smoothly. Peter's loneliness, his relationship with MJ and Ned, the threat facing the city, Sadie Singh's character, and the future of Spider-Man are all competing for attention. Sadie Singh's Jean gets the least room of the group. She's compelling in the scenes she has, but her actual role in the plot feels thinner than the others by comparison. The idea behind her character is strong enough that it deserved more screen time in my opinion, and as it stands, she disappears for longer stretches and comes back into the story feeling more like a plot device than a fully realized character with her own arc. I hope this is covered in future versions. The movie wants to be a complete Peter Parker story and a bridge to future Marvel projects, and it's strongest when those two goals overlap, weaker when the plot exists mainly to set up what's next. And this is a familiar franchise problem. Some viewers will appreciate that Peter's loss isn't treated as a joke, others will miss the warmth and comedy that made the earlier films so accessible. If you prefer a darker, more personal Spider-Man, Brand New Day is exactly that. If you are expecting MCU level high energy throughout, you might miss it a lot.
You sure you want to do this, Scorpion?
You think I'm Scorpion?
And to be honest, the movie doesn't always offer enough humor to relieve the pressure. It spends a lot of time showing us Peter's emotional state and less time showing how he's changing because of it. In a strange way, Peter is closer to the classic Spider-Man idea now than he's ever been in the MCU. That's what separates him from a lot of other superheroes. He doesn't keep helping people because the world rewards him. He does it because he knows what happens when nobody steps in. So back to the question I opened with, does the grounded approach make Peter's story more powerful, or does it make the movie feel small after No Way Home? For me, it's the former, but only in the first half. The quieter character first choices are what make this the most emotionally honest Spider-Man movie the MCU has ever made. It's the pacing in the second half that occasionally works against it. Now, where would I place Brand New Day among Tom Holland's other Spider-Man movies? No Way Home is still my favorite. It combines everything a viewer wants: emotion, conflict, humor, and nostalgia, all balanced in a way that never asks you to sit with discomfort for too long.
You know, it's what we do.
Yeah, it's what we do. Thank you.
Brand New Day asks more of you, and it doesn't always reward that patience evenly. But as a standalone film, it's really good, held back only by parts of the second half and by a supporting subplot or two that needed more room to grow.
Because I'm not just Peter Parker. I'm Spider-Man.
That's my review of the new Spider-Man movie. Let me know in the comments what you liked or didn't like in this movie review. Subscribe if you haven't already, and check out our latest video on Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey right here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.